To je to.
So
I think we can start.
Okay. Well, the request today, it's been a while since we've talked. We missed you all, and we hope that your practice is going well. And Birken Monastery, Theravada Monastery is doing well here. And I hope you're all maintaining your well-being in the midst of this pandemic. I know that it's worldwide, so we really have a lot in common. We have something to talk about, no matter where you are. How are you doing in lockdown? Anyway, this is part of life. There's for Buddhism, there's no surprises, and if there are any surprises, then our practice is not good enough. And notice this maybe in your own life, that whenever you're surprised, you say, okay, my practice is not good enough. I got surprised again. So Buddhism anticipates that life is nothing but surprises, and so you may as well get over it. Not be ready for anything. Absolutely.
Can you translate?
Anything.
Can you translate?
Yeah.
Ok, znači Ajahn je rekao da imamo nešto, da se nismo dugo čuli, da imamo nešto zajedničko, to je ova epidemija koja nas je stavila u lockdown i da mi kao budisti smo spremni na sve, za nas to ništa nije iznenađenje i ako nas je nešto iznenadilo, znači da nismo bili, znači naša praksa nije bila dovoljno dobra. It's a short version.
Good job. Okay. Well, the topic today, which was requested, is lobha, dosa, moha. And this is a very good request because basically we can understand all of the important aspects of Buddhism with just these three characteristics: lobha, dosa, moha, and that's one way of that's one form of translation: greed, hatred, delusion in English.
Znači super je za ovo predavanje je odličan. Thanks to Vasilije has got a suggestion for the lecture. Znači to je Vasilijev predlog lobha, dosa, moha i načelno prevod je greed, hatred, delusion. Znači mi prevodimo pohlepa, mržnja i zabluda. Da, i to je osnova.
Yes.
Da budizam može da se objasni preko te tri pojave. Okay.
So this is the negative form. This is the why we suffer, and we suffer because of these three things: greed, hatred, and delusion. Our psychological suffering is, our emotional suffering is captured in these three things. And all of the many teachings of the Buddha can be fitted in. It's like a little box. All of the Eightfold Path can be fit into this box with greed, hatred, and delusion as a container.
Znači, pohlepa, mržnja i zabluda su one uzrok svih naših nevolja, patnji. Znači, sve naše negativne emocije koje proživljavamo mi praktično su zbog ta tri korena. I ono što sam rekla, praktično celo budističko učenje može da se stavi u te tri uzroka negativnih emocija. I osmostruki put praktično možemo da svedemo na te tri tačke, kao u kutiju. Okay.
So this is, it's like we bought a house. We bought an old house and we're very excited to move in. But when we move in, we find there's a terrible smell in the house. And so we spend our time looking for the source of this terrible smell in this house, because we can't live here with that smell. And eventually we find out that several rats have died under the floorboards. And whether we like it or not, we have to take up the floorboards, get down there and vacuum it all out and clean it all out so that we can move into this house, and that is a pleasant place to live. So this greed, hatred, and delusion has a very unpleasant side effects, creates bad situation in our lives and with our families and with the world. And so whatever it takes, we have to find the source of this very bad smell.
Dakle, ove tri otrova su stvari kao da smo kupili novu kuću i da smo se uselili u novu kuću i ona ima neki nepodnošljiv smrad. I koliko god je kuća lepa i sviđala nam se, taj smrad nam pravite nemoguće u toj kući da živimo i moramo da pronađemo uzrok tog smrada. To je verovatno neki pacovi koji su zakopani pod patosom i moramo da sklonimo te daske i da izvadimo te pacove, da ih se rešimo tog smrada, praktično se rešimo uzroka tog smrada. Jer taj smrad, odnosno ta tri otrova će nam svakako kvariti sve odnose i u porodici i na poslu i svuda ćemo jednostavno imati taj nepodnošljiv smrad.
So, the opposite of greed, of hatred, and delusion, there are a number of ways of talking about its opposites, but the way the Buddha explains it is simply the negative. So non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion is what we're aspiring to. Non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion.
Znači, tražeći suprotnosti od te pohlope, mržnje i zablude, Buda je jednostavno predložio da samo negacijom dobijemo, znači bez mržnje, bez ne mržnja, ne pohlepa i ne zabluda.
Okay.
And there are a number of ways of getting to non-greed. And for instance, generosity is non-greed. It's a positive form of non-greed. Renunciation, where you just give everything away, is also the absence of greed.
Kako možemo vežbati odsustvo pohlepe? Praktično prvi predlog Budin je da budemo velikodušni, znači da budemo velikodušni, a drugi predlog je uzdržavanje, renunciation, znači ono što da se uzdržavamo od loših dela. Okay.
So we can work with greed in a number of ways, and the first and most easy is generosity. So even a child can do that. Even at 3 years old, you can teach the child to share a cookie. You can ask them, so you give them a cookie and then you say, can I have a bite of their cookie? And sometimes they will offer it to you. And of course you have a huge adult head. You lean forward to eat the cookie. You are huge and you take it. They delight in this. They learn. They feed the dog, they feed the birds, they feed their rabbits, they feed their parents. They learn this generosity and they learn to enjoy and delight in that.
Znači, najlakši način da obuzdamo našu pohlepu ili želju prema materijalnim stvarima je da te stvari delimo i čak Kad su deca mala, najlakše ih naučiti velikodušnosti tako što im se, na primjer, da keksi, odmah im se kaže ćeš malo da podeliš sa mnom, ćeš da daš malo psu. Tako da na taj način se od malih nogu uče da dele svoje stvari i da dožive tu velikodušnost.
If you don't know about this, if you're not taught this some point in your life, the joy of sharing, of generosity, then you will not have access to a source of happiness, a very beautiful source of happiness, which you never get tired of. So we should all increase our skills with this and do it more often, just to remind ourselves of the joy of this.
Ako vas velikodušnost nisu kao male naučili, ako sami niste osjetili to zadovoljstvo delenja i velikodušnosti, to je nešto što na neki način treba da vežbamo i da se stalno podsjećamo i da praktično razvijamo to kao osobinu koja nam donosi jednu vrstu sreće koja ne može da se poredi ni sa čim drugim.
Now there's another type of cure for greed, and that is you will see a certain portion of the population that decides they want less. They don't want more, they want less. They find that too many things, too much interest in money and objects and promotions and jobs and fame start to be a burden, start to make you miserable. So they discover another form of non-greed, and that's called renunciation, or in the Buddhist word is nekama, lightening up or letting go, reducing desire, reducing possessions. So this is another way of non-greed.
Jedan deo populacije, neki ljudi dođu do toga da se prezasite previše jurnjavom za nekim postignućima, poslovima, diplomama, raznim, da kažem, ovozemaljskim dobrima i jednostavno pokušavaju da nađu neki način života da se polako, da kažem, otpuštaju deo tih i kako se kaže, odriču i, da kažem, obuzdavaju i odriču se, bilo da postanu monasi, bilo da žive neki minimalni način života, ali to je još jedan od načina da se smanji pohlepa.
You will see this in some places, modern life. People get sick of too much consumerism, and they take up what they call minimalism. They clear out the big, too much furniture and too many clothes, and they start to delight in this freedom that comes from reducing instead of collecting. So this is they are discovering a form of joy and lightness, which leaves them more time to experience their lives directly and appreciate the simplicity of just being.
Da postoji taj pokret trenutno tog minimalističkog načina života da ljudi shvate koliko su se opteretili tim konzumerizmom i sticanjem stvari i jednostavno počinju da se opredeljuju za neke malo pojednostavljene, bilo život na selu ili da smanje obim stvari koje posjeduju i za kojim jure, tako da praktično uspevajući na taj način da se reše deo tog svog celog bagaža, oni počinju da žive nekim lakšim životom i osjećaju to zadovoljstvo rasterećenosti od stvari. Okay.
But this must be, this externals that you give away, or you just throw away sometimes. You just take it to the dump. But you must replace it with something. You can't live in this condition if you have nothing inside. So you have to enrich your inner world. That has to have some abundance. And this inner world is types of thought but always connected with feeling. So even thoughts are not good enough. Even a very bright person who has a lot of intellectual knowledge still is not content and at ease unless their emotional state is full. So when we let go of the outer world, we have to replace it with a rich inner world, or it can work in the opposite direction. We can, as our inner world becomes more rich, we find that our outer world just gets in the way.
Da, rešavajući se na taj način ovih par načina života koje je pomenuo Ajahn, da se rešavamo tih materijalnih stvari i da se oslobađamo viška stvari, praktično se napravi jedna praznina koju treba na neki način popuniti. Sad, ono što smo navikli da tražimo s polja i odricanjem od stvari koje dolaze od spolja, mi praktično trebamo svojim unutrašnjim radom na sebi i da kažem, nekim dinamičnim duhovnim životom, bilo u mentalnom smislu, što neki ljudi prelaze u neke intelektualne vode i intelektualne sfere, što nije dovoljno, ali ipak i u emotivnim, u načinima kojim pristupamo emocijama, treba da praktično popunimo tu prazninu, znači da taj naš unutrašnji život bude sve bogatiji i što je taj život bogatiji, nama su sve manje i dalje stvari i spoljnosti, uticaji potrebni. Okay.
So we are not actually looking for any kind of deprivation. This is not to see how little we can live with. Actually, what the phrase that we use, and which the Buddha uses and also instructs the monks to use, is contentment with little. But notice the word contentment, fullness with little. And that little means about the outside world. The outside world, you don't need much because you're already full. The inner world is full. And so you don't need much outside. So it's not about deprivation. It's not about seeing who can go with the littlest. It's not a sport. It's not painful. It's about actually fullness, contentment, happiness, well-being. And then you are content with little.
Buda, znači, ovim odricanjem ne znači da će da se napravi bilo kakav nedostatak i neke zabrane. Znači, mi odricajući se spoljnih tih uticaja. Kako? Ovih spoljnih dobara, Buda predlaže jedan recept koji kaže da budemo zadovoljni sa malim, a to zadovoljni sa malim znači da smo zadovoljni sa malo ispunjeni, kontent, zadovoljni, ispunjeni sa malim i da nam ne treba puno za život, a u stvari naš unutrašnji život postaje sve bogatiji i bogatiji.
So it's a little like losing, if you're really overweight and you decide to go on a diet, it's not to make you feel worse, it's to make you feel better. So when you complete your diet, then you have lost a lot of weight and you feel lighter and better. And that's the goal of this, is that greed is like being hugely overweight and never being able to have enough food. So one keeps eating, but still one feels empty. So if we fix that, if we open up your throat so the food goes in properly, then you only need a small amount and you feel just great. Yeah.
Napravi paralelu sa prekomernom težinom, znači nije odricanje od težina nešto što će da bude teško, nego jednostavno će vas načiniti lakim. Tako da praktično što više se gubi težina, ti se osjećaš sve bolje i bolje. Tako i sa ovim, što više imamo spoljnih tih stvari, što više ih se rešavamo i što više imaju na nas utice, osjećamo se lakše i lakše. Znači, nema potrebe da, kao da nam je neko smanjio grlo i da nam je sasvim malo potrebno da budemo zadovoljni i ispunjeni sa vrlo malo hrane.
So a little bit we move on to what we call hatred, dosa. And this is even worse problem. And so we cure it by non-hatred. And non-hatred can take two forms. The positive form is true love, true friendship, the positive wishing for well-being of yourself and others. And the other version of it is simply equanimity or peace, profound inner peace. So both of them are without anger. So if you're very serene and at peace, you are without anger. And if you are full of goodwill and friendship and loving kindness, you are without anger. Both of these are solutions to this terrible disease called anger.
Sljedeća, znači naša tačka dnevnog reda mržnja je mnogo komplikovanija od ove prve koje smo pričali i Buda je predložio dva načina na koje ćemo se pokušati rešiti ljutnje. Prva je neljutnje odnosno taj antidot neljutnje ima dva dela. Jedno prosto osjećanje dobre volje prema drugima, razvijanje prijateljstva i dobronamernosti. A druga je, kako beše upeka? Ekvanimite upeka. Ravnoteža, da. Znači jedna ravnoteža koja neće nas ništa izbacivati iz jednostavno osjećat ćemo se da smireno i stabilno. Tako da ta dva su antidota za ovu ljutnju koja veoma može da nam pokvari život.
So we all feel much better when we're with our friends than when we're with our enemies. And this gives us a clue. So we all prefer the sense of friendship, safety, and love that comes from people or our dogs, which are always helpful and wish us well. And we always feel uncomfortable when there are people around us that are hostile to us, that would do us harm, would hold a negative view of us, that are not interested in helping us, not interested in understanding us, not interested in being kind to us. We feel very uncomfortable. So this is the state inside of us. We also create this situation. When we have anger, we are surrounded by enemies. When we have loving kindness, we are surrounded by friends.
Svakako mi mnogo više volimo da se nađemo među našim prijateljima i da smo prihvaćeni takvi kakvi smo i da smo u jednom dobrom raspoloženju, jednoj podržavajućoj okolini. I da je Ajahn primjer sa svojim psima koji su nam uvijek donose neku radost i sve, a mnogo se bolje osjećamo nego kad se nađemo u nekom društvu koje nam nalazi mane i kod kojih se ne osjećamo, da kažem, ni da žele da ih interesujemo, ni da im se nešto sviđamo. Tako da ta naša promjena perspektive da mi gledamo kao na prijatelje praktično okreće i daje nama da mi stalno budemo u tom mnogo boljem raspoloženju i da se iz nas kreće taj osjećaj, da kažem, dobre energije prema drugima, bez obzira u kojoj se situaciji nađe.
Notice this, whoever is a mathematician amongst you, notice that no matter how many friends you never have too many friends. But if you have even one enemy, you have too many enemies.
Prijatelja nikad nije dosta, a neprijatelja i jedan je previše. Za matematičare zadatak.
Okay, so now of these two, this greed and this hatred, the Buddha talks about these two, and he says that the anger, now hatred is a strong word, But even a small annoyance is a form of that. Even boredom is a form of hatred. So when you're bored, you don't like your situation. You are disliking your situation. So there's all kinds of emotions that you may be surprised to find out that have ill will in them. Even when you're waiting for the bus and it's not coming and you don't like it, then you have ill will. And of course it feels uncomfortable.
Znači, postoji čitav spektar od to, kad kažemo za ovo da je mržnja i da je ljutnja, to su neke najjače frekvence te emocije, a one imaju čitav spektar do neke prosto iritabilnosti, neke zlovolje, do praktično Ajahn ubraja u taj, da kažem, vozići dosadu, jer kad god osjećamo dosadu, mi smo praktično u nekoj kontri sa trenutnom situacijom i osjećamo neku zlovolju prema tome momentu u kojem smo se našli, znači čekajući autobus i dosadno nam je na stanici, mi smo već onako polako krenemo da budemo nervozni i besnimo i to je isto ono što neko misli da je dosada neutralna emocijona, u stvari je praktično si u ratu sa sadašnjim trenutkom, praktično negativno spada u ovaj komplet.
Now we should rank these two feelings, greed and aversion or hatred. We should give them a ranking. The Buddha gives them a ranking. He says hatred is worse. Greed is not as bad, but hatred is easier to get rid of, and greed is very hard to get rid of.
Buda rangira ove dve osobine, znači rekao je da je mržnja gora od pohlepe, ali s druge strane od mržnje i od celog tog, da kažem, kompleta tih emocije lakše se rešiti nego od ove pohlepe i želje. To je to.
Anger and hatred is always felt as an illness, a strong sense of painful emotion, always. It's never pleasant. And that is why it is easier to get rid of, because there is no positive side to it. And so we are often, when people say, you know, it would be nice not to be so angry, even angry people tend to listen. They say, right, I don't like this. That's why it's a very great illness, but it's something you can be very motivated to get over that illness.
Zašto je ljutnju se lakše rešiti? Zato što je nekako u sebi osjećamo kao neku bolest i smeta nam, to je jedno neprijatno osjećanje i čak kad nam neko ukaže pažnju nekome ko je ljut, on može da prizna sebi da bi bilo dobro za njega da se reši te ljutnje i on je percipira kao neku bolest i ima želju da se nje reši i zato je ljutnje lakše se rešiti nego ove sledeće pohlepe.
And the medicine which cures anger is very pleasant in itself. So loving kindness or serenity they taste good. So you look forward to your medicine that cures anger. You look forward to it. It's very easy to take. Yeah.
I lek koji Buda preporučio ljubav i spokojstvo kao lekove protiv ljutnje su jako prijatni i praktično mi jedva čekamo da se dokopamo tako nekog osjećanja i da ljutnju zamenimo tim prijatnim lekovima kao što su ljubav i spokojstvo.
Greed is different. Desire is different. And it's harder to get rid of because sometimes it's connected with pleasure and sometimes it's not connected with pleasure. It's connected with frustration and disappointment. But sometimes because it feels good to want things sometimes, then you're less likely to want to cure your illness, your debt. Greed is a form of a credit card.
Da, znači pohlepe mnogo teže i želje koja spada u to je mnogo teže se rešiti, zato što u dosta slučajeva ona jednostavno se osjećamo dobro da želimo i premda nam nekad donosi frustraciju što neku želju ne možemo da ispunimo, ipak želja nam u većini slučajeva da omogućava neko dobro osjećanje. Kao kreditnu karticu da smo dobili ko će nam nekad u budućnosti ispuniti želje. Okay.
It's fun to have a credit card. Suddenly you can just buy anything. But of course, it's not your money. You borrowed that money. And then the next day, the next week, then you have to pay it back. So it was fun for a while, but then there's a downside to it. Greed has always got two sides to it. We get the thing, and then we need to do it again. And it takes a lot of effort and searching to keep up the satisfaction in the world. So when we want things in the world, we have to pay for things in the world. We have to pay with time, with effort, with money, and then it's gone. And the next day we have to start again. So this is the problem with greed. It's a problem. It's hard to get rid of too.
Znači, ta kreditna kartica koju smo dobili, u početku nam se čini vrlo zabavna, sve možemo sebi da priuštimo, da uživamo u nekim stvarima koje smo želeli, ali u tom prvom momentu zaboravljamo da nam to dolazi za neko vreme na naplatu i praktično sve što nam je ta kartica donela mi moramo da platimo, bilo vremenom, bilo radom, bilo trudom, bilo u nekim slučajima zdravljem. Znači, to je jedan deo koji se u početku zaboravlja i zato je ta pokušaj da se rešimo pohlepe i da ostanemo bez te kreditne kartice mnogo teži nego prvi slučaj.
Yes, so getting rid of greed is like cutting up your credit cards, throw them away, no credit card again. All the monks have to do that. They can't have a credit card, no credit card.
Sad znamo kako je monasima, pošto moraju da žive bez kreditnih kartica, moramo da isečemo sve kreditne kartice. Razumemo monahe.
So, this is, now I would like to talk about the third part. This is delusion or ignorance. This is moha. It's also called avidya.
Treći deo našeg predavanja moha ili na još jedan način zovemo avidja, praktično je zabluda i neznanje.
Now this is the root of the two problems that we were dealing with. It has a root in greed and hatred are the source of greed and hatred is actually ignorance. Is delusion, is a kind of mental illness.
I ovo je mentalna, kako je Ajahn nazvao, mentalna bolest je praktično koren ovih prvih dve zbog te neznanja i zbog te naše zaluđenosti, da kažem, se nama ove pohlepa i mržnje javljaju. Praktično kao neka mentalna bolest.
They're doing something there. We have a mess.
Marceau again.
Okay, sorry, we had audio difficulties or something difficulties, but our support stewards have fixed it. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you all the time. It's
Put your
okay.
thumb up. Can you hear me? Yes.
All the time.
Okay, good. Yes, so back to delusion. Delusion is a very big problem and very hard to get rid of. You want to translate that?
Da se od nje reši. Okay.
Okay.
So it's kind of like when your microphone doesn't work. That's delusion. Like, so it's nothing works. So anyway, delusion is the root of greed and hatred. So how the problem of delusion is because if you knew you were deluded, you wouldn't be deluded. This is also, by the way, if any of you are worried about getting Alzheimer's or any of this kind of stuff, and you're thinking, oh, I can't remember somebody's name, or where did I leave the scissors? And you think, oh, I hope I'm not getting Alzheimer's. Yeah, that's not how Alzheimer person doesn't think, oh, I don't know where the scissors are. They don't think that. They don't think, I can't remember their name. That's the difference. When you think, I can't remember where the scissors are, or I can't remember his name, it's not Alzheimer's.
Okay.
Alzheimer's, you don't know you can't remember the name. You don't know you can't remember where the scissors are. So delusion is something that you cannot see. Yeah.
Zašto je ovo najteže za iskorenjivanje? Zato što je ne vidiš. Praktično ti kad si u zabludi, ti nisi svestan da si u zabludi. Jednostavno nisi kao i, da kažem, kad neko ima Alzheimer, on nema pojma da ima Alzheimer. Ovo što se nama desi da zaboravimo gde smo stavili makaze ili nečije ime, to sama svest, što smo svesni da smo nešto zaboravili, znači da još nismo odmakli u Alzheimeru, ali kad budemo imali Alzheimer, ako budemo imali, nećemo biti svesni da smo nešto zaboravili. I to mi je glavni trik sa ovom trećom. To što jednostavno ti si u toj zabludi i nemaš nikakvu svest o tome, ne znaš da si u tome. Okay.
So this is very tricky. How are we going to get this? How are we going to make this delusion go away if we can't even see that we have it? Well, here is how. We are going to work on our greed and our hatred, because greed and hatred nourish and support your delusions. So they are the food of your delusions. And if we can reduce our greed by the joy of generosity and contentment, and if we can reduce our anger by the joy and beauty of loving kindness and serenity, then our delusion will clear up. We will realize we've been thinking in a very strange way. It's as if we have eaten some drug or bad food or something, and we're behaving in a very strange way. When we get over it, we can't believe we behaved that way. But it seemed to be the right thing at the time. So the food of delusion is greed and hatred. We shrink our delusion through the reduction of greed and hatred.
Kako ćemo ovu podmuklu bolest, kako ćemo se nje rešiti kad je nismo ni svesni? Tako što ćemo se rešavati ove prve dve gore, mržnje i pohlepe. Znači, pošto one proističu iz te, mi ćemo praktično hrane, znači smanjivajući i pokušavajući se velikodušnošću i zadovoljstvom što se tiče pohlepe i što se tiče mržnje, prijateljstvom i spokojstvom, znači ta dva protiv otrova koje je Ajahn dao u prethodnom delu kad je pričao ta dva otrova, mi ćemo praktično polako iskorenjivati ovaj treći zablud. Način da mu priđemo je, da kažemo, od pozadi sa te strane da iskorenjujemo ova prva dva. I onda će nam se desiti da shvatimo da smo neke stvari potpuno uradili kao da smo nešto pojeli loše ili smo uzeli neki halucinogenu drogu, nešto i delovalo nam je jako pametno i logično u tom momentu kad smo to radili, ali posle toga kad to prošlo shvatimo da šta nam bi, što li smo to radili, koji nam đavo.
So this, we can see this, when you're with people who convince you that someone has a fault, someone is worthy of criticism, they should be hated, and you go along with that, you feel anger and hostility and critical of people, and then somebody else comes along and says, oh, I know them for their whole life. If you saw how they were raised, how rough their childhood was, that they had an accident at a certain age and hit their head, and then they managed to recover. And then you hear this story, which is very kind and wise. And then suddenly you feel differently about that person. Your anger falls away. So delusion is misunderstanding, is lack of information, is distorted information. And when you hear the other side of the story, that delusion clears up, that misinformation clears up. And with it, it feeds back and produces goodwill and compassion. So you see the people who they see bad behavior in people, and they're interested in, why is this taking place? Can I help you? Can I improve your situation? Can I help you understand it? And so that's the relationship between greed, from loving kindness and ignorance. So loving kindness changes your misunderstandings about the world and about yourself. And that's how it works. It's a positive feedback.
Kao jedan primjer, jedna situacija gdje nam je neko nešto rekao sve loše o nekoj osobi i znamo neke grozne stvari koje ta osoba uradila i to na neki način lako kod nas izazove mržnju i bes i sve. A onda dođe neko drugi i kaže neki životni put te osobe koji nije bio lak, koji je svašta preživeo u detinjstvu, bilo da pretrpeo neko zlostavljanje, bilo da imao neke nesreće ili neke akcidente ili šta je sve dovelo do tog stanja te osobe da ona bude takva kakva jeste i praktično to je razbijanje te zablude. Jednostavno mi nismo imali sve informacije koje su nam bile potrebne da shvatimo i jednostavno smo prihvatili tu površinsku sliku i poveli se za tim besom, a kad dođemo do ostatka tih informacija može da nam se razvije saosećanje i da na neki način i razumevanje, što je na neki način i oslobađanje od tog besa i od ljutnje. To je to. Okej. Se zamrzi?
Da. And they froze.
Što s njim ovdje?
Da. Okej. Da. They had problem and it stopped. Izgleda da im nisu opravili taj audio problem baš do kraja. kako
Možda
treba.
pošalješ poruku.
Bude problem.
Da ne kaš ti ne da. Možda nema da se oni imaju ograničenje. Dobro. Dobro, stigao skoro pred kraj. Get out and get back.
Nema puče veza. Kanada ipak izgleda nije što je nekad bila. Bolje radi iz Burme. Tako je. Sad će verovatno da se vrati.
Igor i Irena, izvinite, vi verovatno zbog mene samo prevodite.
Mislim da ne.
Ja se izvinjam što je malo zbrzam, on mnogo dugačke komade, ja ne mogu da popamtim šta je sve rekao. Pa se izvinjam ovim kojima sam nešto zbrljala.
Meni je malo neprijatno, ali dobro.
Ma jok, ma ne. Cool. Mislim, mi ćemo ovo snimak ćemo postaviti na sajt, pa će sve biti super da ima prevod, kakav god. Makar i ovakav bangav.
Ne mora niko da tipuje, a može, na primjer, Duška. A može i Sofija.
Jel imate neka pitanja ako se vrati?
Tere mi Vasilija.
Evo me, tu sam. Nemamo, baš super ispričao ono što me zanimalo, znači nemam primjedbe. A i ti si super snašla za prevod.
Hvala.
Na primjer, možemo da pitamo o mržnji prema tiraninu.
Joj, meni to sve vreme u glavi, da znaš. A sad ne znam da li je to dobra tema da nas navuče u ružne vode, da li smo ovim lepim.
Dobro, to je pitanje, nećemo mi da ulazimo u lokal dnevne politike.
I pokušavam da nađem...
To je centralna tema, znaš. Zato što sve ovo što govorimo, to se odnosi na ljude dobre volje. Čovek dobre volje će da poradi na sebi, pa će kod sebe da pronađe gde mrzi, gde je pohlepan, gde je zaveden. Ali čovek koji je loše volje, on je i pohlepan, i mrzi, i potpuno je zaveden, i teroriše sve ostalo. I sad se postavlja pitanje, da li budizam ima bilo kakav savjet o tome kako bi društvo trebalo da se ponaša prema tiranima, što kaže ovaj.
To je odlično pitanje, ajde ako se povrati...
To je odlično pitanje. U našoj situaciji, to je ne samo u našoj, bilo je to problem i u Budino vreme, Buda je se ratovao sa tiranima.
Ali ja mislim da je problem da je celo društvo u stvari zasnovano na pohlepi i ako bi nestalo pohlepe, propale bi sve firme, bili bi svi mi nezaposleni, mislim, niko ništa ne bi kupovao ako bi stvarno svako imao samo ono što mu je potrebno.
Odlično.
Ali možda i ne, ja sam to razmišljala da možda i bi mogla neka ekonomija koja je realna, da mi stvarno otišli u drugu krajinu. Da nama masa...
Imaju dosta uspeha, iako nemaju vlastodržatko društvo. Recimo, aboriđini žive milenijumima, bez ikakvog državnog ustrojstva, društvenog ustrojstva i žive sasvim okej.
A živjeli su okej dok nisu došli Englezi, a sad...
Ne, nisu važni Englezi, bitno je da je ljudska zajednica, znači ona može da opstane iako ne postoji hijerarhija, iako ne postoji iznuda, iako ne postoji tiranija i tako dalje. Tako da, ali baš me zanima šta će on da odgovori, zato što je čovjek verovatno upućen i puno je čitao i interesantno pitanje.
Ali kako živi aboričinska zajednica?
Živi samosvojno, živi sposobno da preživi. To je ključ. Ne moraš da imaš kola da bi bio srećan. Evo ga, izgleda se pojavio.
Jeste, evo ga.
Pa upada, ispada.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah.
I'm back.
We had a lively discussion.
Okay.
Your absence.
Good. That's good. Yes.
We don't see you yet, but okay.
Yeah, you can't see me yet, but I will soon appear. Yeah.
It's good to hear you.
So it looked like it looked like I fell asleep and was frozen, or I died in the middle of the conversation, and I was frozen.
Delusion.
Yeah, I was frozen. It is Canada after all. So
I made a screenshot.
There's a technical glitch in the machine. Oh, this is a different camera, eh? This is the
video.
It's
okay.
This is the
great.
Okay. Good.
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
Excellent.
We'll go with that.
Okay.
It's gonna work.
Hello. I'm back. Am I?
And
Yes.
we are glad
Okay.
to...
So, yes, we were talking about how to free ourselves from this delusion. So we can't see the delusions directly, so we see the support of the delusion. And the supporting causes of the delusion are greed and anger. So if I mentioned mindfulness, just before I froze like that, I mentioned mindfulness. So mindfulness is, you've all heard of mindfulness practice, mindfulness this and mindfulness that. I tell you, here's the most effective use of your mindfulness. You have to be mindful. Am I greedy? Am I feeling greed and desire now? Am I angry? Am I irritated? Am I bored? That's the use of mindfulness. Mindfulness tells you, I am feeding my delusion. Now I must stop this. So the mindfulness is the thing that spots this. I'm feeding my delusions. I am greedy. I'm angry. Now I must stop that. And what should I do? I should change to generosity or contentment. I should change to loving kindness or serenity. And when I do that, I will reduce my confusion, my misinformation, and I will begin to feel differently. So I keep doing this. This is the work of mindfulness. If you can just keep, it's very simple. Greed, hatred supports delusion. Non-greed, non-hatred produces awakening, enlightenment, clarity. And mindfulness is the agent that does this.
Znači, nastavljamo sa zabludom i zabludom kao jednom problemu, kao što njen problem je da je ne vidimo, znači vidimo ono što su njene posledice. vidimo našu pohlepu, vidimo našu mržnju. Sad tu dolazi do, kako se kaže, mindfulness, sabranosti, vežbanja sabranosti, koju se dosta govori i koje smo čuli u raznim meditacija sabranosti. Ovde ta sabranost dolazi do svog najboljeg, kako da kažem, pojavlja se kao najbolja upotreba za mindfulness, za sabranost, jer praktično mi njome prepoznajemo, aha, sad sam ovde pohlepan, aha, ovde se javila želja, ovde se javila mržnja, ljutnja, bilo iritacija ili dosada i jednostavno s tim snopom svesnosti mi sečemo kroz te dve posledice tih zabluda i praktično shvatamo kako je do toga došlo i jedini način da razvežemo te naše zbrke i zablude je da svesnošću pratimo pojavu ove pohlepe i mržnje. Znači i da čim to primenimo ove protivotrove koje je Ajahn dao, znači što se tiče ove pohlepe da razvijamo velikodušnost i da razvijamo zadovoljstvo malim stvarima i što se tiče mržnje da razvijamo metu i da razvijamo preko, odnosno spokojstvo. I tu praktično dolazimo do toga da ako uspemo da se rešimo ta dva otrova požude i mržnje i razvežemo tu zabludu, nama se javlja osjećaj rasterećenja, oslobođenja i praktično to je prosvetljenje.
Right. So this is how we undo our lack of information, our ignorance, and our wrong information, our misinformation. This is delusion. And it's very simple. We can't undo our ignorance directly. We can do it indirectly. People who try to suddenly get enlightenment without reducing their greed and hatred is like taking a book that you want to know what's in this book and you put it under your pillow and you go to sleep on the pillow next to the book, hoping that somehow you will understand what's in the book in the morning. Now, there are people who claim that this works, but no, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Does not work. You actually have to learn to read, and then you read the book and you read it again and again, and you make notes and you talk and you discuss it, and then you understand the book. But to try to undo your ignorance by just pure mindfulness or something, you can't work. It's like putting the book under your pillow. It's just you're not going to understand. But if you do this, work on the non-greed and the non-hatred, then you're now reading the book. You're absorbing the knowledge. You're changing your knowledge.
Praktično, kad pokušavamo da se rešimo od tog našeg neznanja i te naše zablude, samo prikupljanjem informacije ili samo svesnošću, mindfulnošću, to izgleda kao da smo stavili knjigu pod jastuк, da spavamo i da ćemo da naučimo, da pročitamo tu knjigu preko noći. Ono što je bilo jedno vreme, pričali su samo prespove sa knjigom pod jastukom, sve će ti doći. Znači, apsolutno nema šanse na taj način da se, da kažem, razveže ta zabluda i neznanje. Mi rešavajući se požude i mržnje, mi praktično krećemo da čitamo tu knjigu našeg neznanja i krećemo da vatamo beleške, da učimo o tome i da pričamo o tome i da na taj način to, da kažem, na mala vrata rešavamo te korenskog tog neznanja kroz posmatranje ova dva fenomena požude i mržnje. Okay.
So these three things are represented in Buddhist teaching, greed, hatred, and delusion, as a rooster, a snake, and a pig. And the rooster, the snake, the pig, they're on a wheel and they chase each other round and round the wheel. The snake tries to bite the rooster's tail, the rooster pecks the pig chases both around and around and around they go. Rooster, snake, pig. The rooster or the bird or rooster is greed. The snake is anger. The pig is delusion. Now this is, yeah, okay, I explain, you go.
Ok, znači ove tri otrova su predstavljena u budizmu sa simbolima petla, zmije i svinje. Znači petao je želja, zmija je mržnja i svinja je neznanje. Prase je neznanje. I u onom točku oni se non stop jure, grizu jednog drugoga i stalno su u točku, tako da sad će Ajahn da objasni. Okay.
Yeah. So and this helps you when you think about it. You see that sometimes your rooster is active. Sometimes your snake. Now the snake, you know, this snake is like, he stands up and hisses. You know, the cobra is very dangerous. He's very dangerous. The bird is just looking for food all the time, food everywhere. He will endless looking for food. The pig just wanders around. He doesn't know where he's going, and he rolls in the mud in his own excrement as well. Very problem. So you need to say, okay, my rooster is out. My rooster is roaming around. My snake is hissing. My pig is making a mess of everything. So this we can learn. This is universal. It's not you personally. This happens with all humans. And once we understand, we got these three animals in there. We need to reduce their personalities, and then something else emerges. What emerges is a beautiful human being, actually. So that's, instead of a rooster and a snake and a pig, you become actually a beautiful human being, okay?
Znači, pratići ovu simboliku, ove tri životinje koje je Ajahn dao za tri otrova, znači kad se pojavi u nama pohlepa, aha, izašao je petalog, samo gleda što će nešto da kljuca, samo traži hranu. Znači, ako krene zmija, aha, nešto šišti, nešto u meni gore. Znači, nekako da probamo da usvojimo tu simboliku, da prepoznamo kod sebe kad krene da nam se to dešava. I svinja kao životinja koja se valja, ide naokolo bez nekog cilja, valja se u blatu, valja se čak i u svojim sopstvenim izmetu. Tako da nekako kroz tu simboliku pokušavamo da kroz sebe prepoznamo kad se neka od tih životinja pojavi ili da kažem nama zavlada. A ono što se dešava kad, da kažem, te životinje se vrate, odnosno stave na svoje mesto, počinje da se pojavljuje predivno ljudsko biće koje nema te probleme koje smo ovde pominjali. Okay.
So, yes, that's basically our talk today on greed, hatred, and delusion. Halfway across the world to Canada, Serbia. And I want to praise, what's her name? Irena. Very beautiful, fluent translation, which I did not understand a word of, but Dante tells me it was very, very good.
Both fathers did.
Yeah.
Can we make one or two questions?
Yes. Yes, ask questions.
Couple of questions. We took a lot of your time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will try to formulate something which bother all of us here now in Serbia, in the middle of the demonstrations. We would like to pose the question about the hatred which appear in us to the, kako sam rekla, tyrant. In the face of our president.
Okay. The question is...
How to go?
Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Repeat
Hoćeš ti, hoćeš ja?
To repeat.
Hoćeš? Shift the question about the great hatred. Actually, we talked about when you disappeared. While you were on your freeze mode, we talked about how to implement your advice on our current president, which is a heavy dictator, and a lot of hatred against him during this time.
Yeah.
So how do you implement non-hatred when somebody is torturing the whole country? When somebody is how do you implement non-hatred to dictators or to tyrants? Like we have at this moment in Serbia, we have a great riots and a lot of young people are getting beaten up by police, and we are on the verge of a civil war. So it's very difficult time, not only Corona, but the civil unrest and the very, very heavy dictatorship we endure. So how do we treat our hatred towards our dictator? That's the question.
Yeah, it sounds like you. It sounds like the America actually. Donald is your president called Donald Trump? You know, I don't know. So. Yeah, those two should get together. Really, they'd be best buddies.
Best pals.
They can go drinking together. Yeah. Okay. So, first of all, the worse it gets, the better you feel. How's that? Is that a strange thing to say?
Yes.
Because everybody else says, the worse it gets, the worse I feel. That just makes everything worse. So the worse it gets, the better I feel. And that means that you have to, when everybody's angry, that means that you have to be the opposite. You have to be non-angry. When everybody's greedy, you have to be generous. You know, a long time ago, I went to Thailand with a Vietnamese monk who was, he became a monk when he was 8 years old. And it was the time of the Vietnam War. And he told me a story that during the war, the villages got very corrupt, and children couldn't go to school, or because the heads of the villages would take their school books and everything and sell them. And the Americans wanted to promote themselves in Vietnam, so they would bring in food and books and distribute them in the village, but they never got to the people because the headman would take that and sell it on the black market. So the Americans couldn't solve this issue. They couldn't solve the problem of how do we get the stuff to the people.
So, just not to forget the whole story. Napravio poređenje kad je bio mlađi monah, on je išao u Vijetnam s jednim mladim vijetnamskim monahom koji je zaređen sa 8 godina. I on mu je prepričavao tu priču u Vijetnamu koja se dešavala za vreme rata u Vijetnamu kad su Amerikanci tamo bili. I on je govorio kako su se svi ti, da kažem, glavešene tih sela su bili vrlo korumpirani i svu pomoć koju su dobili za decu, knjige, hranu, istraživo, jednostavno su te starešine sela to prodavale, ništa nije uspevalo da dođe do dece. I onda su oni tražili za način kako da stvarno ta njihova pomoć dođe do onih kojima treba. Okay.
So they decided to ask the Buddhist monks what to do. And the Buddhist monks said, well, the problem is here greed and anger. So instead of giving gifts to the village, we are going to walk through the village and ask them to feed us. We are going to go on alms round in the village. And people know that the monks' source of food is generosity. They went through the villages on alms round, and people came out and started to give food. And then they start to remember about the feeling of generosity instead of the feeling of corruption and hoarding. They remember the beauty of generosity. And then after they do this for a period of time, then they start to be able to distribute the goods that come into the village. They start to, instead of selling it on the black market, they give it out. So they have forgotten the beauty of generosity and kindness. So you need to be an example of generosity and kindness so that people can remember, oh yes, that's the beautiful way. And that's the cure for greed and hatred. If more greed and anger on both sides, just makes more anger. You can't, but an act of generosity and kindness is very moving. And then we decide, okay, whatever happens, I'm not going down the path of hatred. I'm not going down the path of hoarding, getting it for myself. I don't care what happens. It's not worth living that way. If I have to die, I die generous and kind. I don't die miserly, accumulating everything and hating. I don't die that way. So then you speak this way, you write this way, you act this way, and that's the most you can do for it. But remember, you can't just automatically change big systems, but you decide that you will not participate in the greed and the hostility. You won't participate in there. The more ignorant they are, the more greedy they are, the more hateful they are, the wiser and kinder and generous you become. So you do the opposite.
Praktično je savjet samo da radimo suprotno od onog što je opšte mesto. Znači kad smo u nekoj situaciji velike mržnje, da mi dajemo totalno suprotno ovo što Buda savjetovao, ne mržnju, znači ljubav. I onda je dao primjer, darežljivost, onda je dao primjer kako ti što nisu mogli da distribuiraju pomoć, Amerikanci su pozvali u pomoć monahe koji su išli onda kroz selo i ljudi su im donosili pindapat. I onda su na neki način ljudi bili, da kažem, podsjećani na tu lepotu davanja i to ih je podsjetilo jednostavno koliko je dobar osjećaj biti dobar i onda nekako to prevaglo na tu stranu. Sad u našem slučaju to ne znam baš kako. Ali u svakom slučaju naše da probamo da reagujemo potpuno suprotno od onog što je opšte mesto i da su jednostavno, kako sam ja shvatila, samo svojim primjerom. Sad ako hoće neko još da kaže only thing we can do is set an example in the midst of this chaos, as I understood you.
And take it personally and be Buddhist. Not expecting other people to be Buddhist, but inside yourself, be deep Buddhist and remember that all you can do is be calm and lead by an example, as I take it.
Mm-hmm.
Show other people with your example.
Yeah, you get the t-shirt. You get the t-shirt. The worse it gets, the better I feel. And then people will stop you. What does that mean? That's what? And then you explain, when things are bad, you must be well. You're the doctor now. If the doctor gets sick, then everybody dies. So you must not get sick. You're there to cure things, not get sick with them. Yeah.
Naše je da ne popustimo, da se ponašamo kao doktori u krizi, jako lepo poređenje. Znači što je gore, na nama je da se trudimo da budemo što bolje u našim vrlinama. Znači, i jednostavno da otprintamo, srednji put will print the t-shirts, srednji put da otprintam majice gde piše da što je gore, ja sam bolji. Eto, we do the shirts.
Excellent.
I don't know if it's enough or we need more stimulus than
no, it's promoting products. As you started with a mug.
Yeah. Product placement, eh? The worse it gets, the better I feel. Incorporated.
Down.
Jel ima još pitanja?
This helps you, you must keep a sense of humor as well. Humor helps you, and it allows you to stay loving and playful and creative. You never lose your sense of humor. So it's better to live. It's a comedy. At the same time, it's a tragedy. It's also a comedy. So we must never lose our sense of this. This is just the weirdness of life as a human on this planet. It's very funny at the same time as it's tragic.
Yes.
Znači, isto vreme treba da sačuvamo smisao za humor kao jedno od glavnih sredstava za spasavanje. Znači, koliko god deluje tragična neka situacija, mi moramo u sebi da pronađemo neki način da je malo obrnemo u komičnu i da se nekako probudi u nama neka razigranost i neka kreativnost, da nađemo možda i neko rešenje koje nam u ovom smrknutom modu ne bi palo na pamet. Tako da to je jedna stvar na koju treba da radimo isto. It's a great advice.
That's good. I hear some laughter there. This is good. Yeah.
You got us thinking very deep.
That's good. You hear laughter in this room as well. We all laugh. I do a lot of jokes. I do a lot of jokes because we have to laugh, you know.
Yes, we do. Jel ima još neko da pita nešto? More questions?
Silence of the lamps.
Okay. Well, then we will sign off. And it was wonderful to be with you across the world. And we share our knowledge and our time and our efforts. And that's already generosity and kindness. And that alleviates our delusions. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for
Thank
this.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And